Okay. Hey, Internet. Welcome to the Nights of the Drunk Watch. We just finished watching Westworld, Season 3, Episode 3, entitled Winterline.
Sure.
I feel like...
No, I thought that was the last episode.
I'm Zach.
I don't know.
I'm
I'm Andrew.
I'm Thomas.
We are the Nights of the Drunk Watch.
And
now
our talk
begins.
With zero lag whatsoever, y'all.
We
I
are
didn't hear Kate say she was Kate, so that's why I was like...
I did. I said it like right before you said, like right before.
So how about that Hale episode? What?
That was crazy.
Yeah.
You know, that one thing that the Hale episode taught me, though, was to take a step back and stop making so many assumptions.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Because I realized I was going, oh, that means this, that means that, that means this. And I was like, wait, I mean, just in general, with the all last 3 episodes, take a breath, open yourself up.
Welcome to how I watch things, Andrew. I never make guesses. Welcome to how I watch things, because I'm always just like, what? Because I don't make guesses. So I'm always surprised and shocked and amazed by everything. I just take everything. I'm the perfect consumer of all of these shows because I take it at face value. Is that good?
I mean, I think you watch it the way they intend people to watch it. It's just...
Well, I think they probably have like 2 intentions. They are trying to make a good story for anyone who's watching it at face value, but also keep everyone who wants to find the answer guessing.
Right.
I mean, this one, for the me version of it, I enjoy it a lot because I'm always surprised.
This episode
go ahead.
Was entitled The Absence of Field. And again, I was thinking about that from when we began watching it to, I believe it very much has to do with Charlotte's character and whoever's in that neck of hers. But it has to do with there's no depth of field, so her Charlotte has no depth. She's very flat. Right. We saw that happening in the episode. But then she gets little tidbits that help her gain a little bit of field. To add depth to her character, which is how
I cut out again, so I only heard half what you said, Thomas, but I'm sure it was brilliant.
It was brilliant. Get to watch it again on Patreon. So Tessa Thompson is her name, actress's name. So great job. It was a good episode. So
and I always enjoy when we get to see like actors just kind of like do a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
I think a stupid example is like Jennifer Garner in 13 Going on 30 gets to play like a teenager as an adult. We get to see Tessa Thompson, who was so like calculating and manipulative, I feel like, as Hale the human, now be like, I'm sorry, what am I supposed to be doing here? Like, we get to see a completely, she is flat, like no dimension character, which is probably hard to act well. Like, make a non-dimensional character, like, it's still compelling. So she's killing it.
Interesting, yeah. So I guess the first thing we have to talk about is Dolores brings back Hale's body, the form of Hale, and puts her back into her position at Delos.
Oh, here's Mark.
Mark.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
I'm not
Okay.
participating.
Yes, as Zach was saying, Dolores' plan is coming into motion by planting her puppet Hale, who we don't drive in.
That's good. Puppet Hale.
In the driver's seat at Delos, as it were.
Puppet Hale.
Puppet Hale. And so I think...
But we get a clue, before you go into like what she's doing, we do get a clue of like, she brought back 3 people and... hang on. In this episode, we see 4 balls. We see 4 balls.
Listen to her.
Listen to me. We see 4 balls, and they even have a conversation. You brought back 3 and him, is what they say. They don't say you brought back 4 people. They say you brought back 3 and him, and the him they're talking about is...
The man in black, William.
No, it was
Bernard.
Bernard.
Says you.
Well, it was Bernard's face.
They showed us.
They showed him. They showed us.
If Bernard is Bernard, she brought back Bernard.
Bernard was one of the first ones we saw back. We already knew she brought him back.
But
she had at that point in the
special
episode.
ball.
Okay, so
in that
so
episode, we know, and it doesn't. What is that actor's name? Anybody?
Hold on, I got it right here.
Which actor?
Right. We see they're talking about who you brought back, 3 people and him.
Jeffrey Wright.
And Jeffrey Wright is the special him ball. 3 of them look the same. One of them looks a little different. They ostracize him when they're talking about him, and we see Jeffrey Wright. I don't know if that's Ford, Bernard, or Armando, or whatever the fuck his name is now.
Hector.
No, it's not.
Victor.
No, it's
Victorio.
Armando.
Armand? I don't know. Oh, Bernard. Bernard's there. Bernard is going as Armando, has split personality.
Anyway, but we know that it's Jeffrey Wright is that 4th special ball. But then there's the 5th ball that we don't even talk about in this episode.
So I guess she puts Hale into the puppet.
Although I guess Hale
is a puppet. No, Hale's not one of the balls.
Hale's not one of the balls?
No, else she would have put Hale in charge of Hale.
No, but Hale never had a ball.
Whoever is in Hale is the 5th ball.
Yes.
I don't think we have enough information to say with any certainty.
Wait, hold on. I'm dealing with Zach's face right now. So she brought a bag full of pearls. They called it a pearl in this episode. One pearl.
We want to talk about balls.
Balls. Okay, she brought a bag of balls, and one of them was Bernard. We don't know who the other ones were.
Yes.
So the theory is one of those is now in Puppet Hale.
So that's what I'm thinking is we have 4 now that we've seen. We've seen those balls. And we know one of them is Jeffrey Wright. Which Jeffrey Wright? It could be Arnold, it could be Bernard. Whatever. And I think the other one is whoever, because they even talk about you know who you are, but do you know who you're supposed to be right now?
Right.
And so they kind of make that difference of whoever your ball is, that's not who you are right now. You're Hale.
Now, so
you are not your ball.
Can I talk about my theory on this now?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because having gone around and around and around on what we know, what we don't know, what could maybe exist because we don't know yet that it exists. And I know we talked a lot about she can build bodies, but can she make balls?
No.
So she cannot make balls. Are we sure about that?
I
was sure about it last week, but
I think balls are only made in the forge or whatever.
Well, here's the thing. I was really trying to study her relationship with Puppet Hale. And I thought if she has the ability to also create a new ball, but not be a host because those are all gone. They're either in the Valley Beyond or the cradle was destroyed.
Yeah.
A new ball would be created from something that she took from the forge. And the only person I think she spent enough time with who is a killer instinct that she would have any understanding of is Logan. So
you think Hale is Puppet Hale is Logan?
That she created a Logan ball from the forge information, which was about the people, and created a Logan ball because he would know how Delos works. He wouldn't know that Hale was working for the enemy, so to speak. So he would be able to go in and at least pretend to be in charge. I don't know. I'm throwing that at, and that's all based.
This is thinking faces.
No, well, okay.
Yeah.
And this is there was one point in the episode where Dolores is sitting down with Puppet Hale and explaining to her, what her job is, what her role is. We only got a snippet of it,
right?
Yes, and at that scene there was Dolores, who has her own ball pearl, and then there was whoever's in Puppet Hale who has her own ball pearl. Then there were 5 balls on the table.
4 balls on the table.
Did I? Damn.
Yeah,
all right,
there were 4 balls. So they had the whole conversation.
We're off by 1. That's all I know. We're either talking about 5.
So now we got to go back and count all the balls.
Count the ball. Always count your balls.
But in Andrew's point, in Andrew's to Andrew's point, he was saying he thinks it's Logan. I was going to say I was getting Abernathy vibes off of it, especially what happened where Puppet Hale had to step in as a parent for Charlotte's son Nathan, and fend him off from a terrible pedophile named Thomas. Fuck you, HBO, ruining my fucking name in 2 separate series. But it felt like parental coding or whatever program.
I would agree with that as well.
No,
so it comes down the things that are just. This is why I started to step back and start opening myself up to possibilities.
That's great, Andrew.
What?
That's great. I'm really happy for you.
Westworld has gotten into personal growth.
When Zach and I were still able to chat for a little while, I came out with the closest relationship he had other than Teddy would have been Abernathy, which fits in with what you were saying, Thomas. But then he when he killed Thomas, the pedophile, he was like, this is who I am. And it's like, well, look, that's when I got and so that's what threw me off, because Abernathy wasn't a killer. He was. Angela was, but in theory, her ball was destroyed when she blew up the cradle.
That's not true. In season 1, when Abernathy was malfunctioning and they were trying to address, Bernard was still Bernard, he thought, and was trying to address with Ford what the hell was going on with Dolores's dad, Abernathy. They realized he was touching on old code where he played somebody named the Colonel or the somebody, the professor who was part of a murder thing. So I mean, these people,
like a theater professor.
I mean, these people have been so many different roles in the park in Delos and Westworld. Like they could be drawing on just
true.
And again, I'm probably just as far off with Abernathy as any of our guesses are at this point. Hell, I was also getting very childish vibes off of whoever was in there. And that could be because of a lack of field, no depth of field, or again, they were trying to play a part and they were only given 5 pages of a 500-page script and they had to play that character.
So my prediction, which is going to be way out there, I'm sure, I have 2 possible ideas. One is that it's William, because we know William is at some point in the series.
We're getting at Harris.
A host, right? So we know William's mind is somewhere out there. It's possible that she extracted him and brought him with her. Possible. My other possible idea is that Dolores actually split herself in half, just like Bernard did.
Horcrux.
Yeah, and so I think just a binary feel of this season so far, good and bad, light and dark. I think she may have put.
I think Dolores is very singular. Yeah, I think she's whole and singular.
It was the line, "No one knows me as well as you do." That is what got me. And then the fetal position, how Dolores was Hale was in the fetal position. I mean, she was in the fetal position.
I can see that.
But and the whole self-harm thing that the puppet Charlotte was going through, I couldn't understand if she was doing that because Dolores had read Charlotte's book when she was in the Forge or the Cradle or whatever it was. So she took that innate knowledge of Charlotte Hale and gave it to this host who's impersonating her. And either that was trying to overtake the host, that's why she was trying to cut it out of herself, I think is what she said. Or if that was the inner host itself trying to, get itself to come out.
Yeah. Well, one thing I would say is what she was cutting into herself was a pattern. So I think that circle with the line, that looked a lot actually like what Insight, the little Insight thing does.
The anomalies it's following, right?
So, I think there's a connection there that we can't fully see yet.
Well, she said that it feels like she's trying to rip herself out.
Mm-hmm.
Hale, like actual Hale.
And that's what I thought it was. I thought Dolores took her book at some point and put it into this thing so it could be as real as it possibly could, but it only had the information that was collected when the original Hale was in Westworld.
Well,
Hale's trying to make best use of it.
And I do like the little detail of, they're not one-to-one copies. So Dolores can't just kidnap a human and then one-to-one copy them.
No.
Because, even
talking
Puppet
about like with the guard or the
security
chief? She just can't scan one person and then copy them because there's things people know, like Hale. It's not a good shtick. It's not perfect. Like there's definite holes in it.
Well, and I mean that kind of makes sense because if like in your book Hale never sang a lullaby because you only experienced Hale on the island, not Hale with her child,
right?
And you wouldn't have the information,
right?
You wouldn't have any of that. That would only be in Hale's mind.
Well, no, it's like I said, they have 5 pages of a 500-page script, and they're expected to fill in the rest as best they can. They got to improvise and be their hostiest hosts.
I just, as an aside to the episode, I always profess this every time I hear it. "You Are My Sunshine" is the worst song. It is about a stalker. Listen to the verses of that song. "You fell in love with another, and I think I killed him." I don't know. The verses are horrible.
That's why we only sing the first one, Andrew.
Well, and
only the refrain, none of the lyrics.
But Puppet Hale may learn the other verses. That may come and play later on.
That's true.
Well, it was a password, and we found out at the end of the episode she's working for Shiraz, and
Shiraz
is already an alcohol,
and that the lullaby she sings to her son was the code that she used to
connect with him,
one-way contact him. Because and as we found out, we're starting to see in season 1 somebody was stealing proprietary information in Westworld and sending it out of the park somewhere, and now we know that Hale and Hale's underlings working for Sirach.
Well, we always knew since season 1 that was Charlotte. Hale was doing that, in charge of that.
But we didn't know who for.
We thought she was doing it for the board, so the board could take over Ford's information. Turns out she was doing it for Sirach.
Zach?
I'll make a prediction.
Sirach
is not real. 10 Jello shots.
I'm putting it in.
10 Jello shots. Sirach is not real. Sirach is the Bahama Dabba Dabba.
Sirach is the inside egg.
Is the inside mind, like personified.
Oh, because when Hale did go to see him, she had to put on the glasses because he wasn't there.
Sirach is
maybe he isn't there.
It's just an inferior brand. Stolichana is much better.
I mean, Sirach could be an acronym.
He liked your vodka joke.
Because I'll also make a prediction that Maeve did not escape. Maeve is just in a separate file in the computer.
What do you mean?
Maeve thinks she's in the real world, but she could just as easily be in another fiction.
She hasn't been put into a host body yet. When Sirach had her for dinner, if what Zach is saying is correct, he just put her into another part of his mainframe, and that's why he was able to stop her.
He's in a simulation she's inside of a simulation inside of a simulation. But we've also seen those buttons. Bernard's kind of using one. It could just as easily be, if you will, real world.
Yes.
That, he, like he said, he protected himself, and he made sure he would take, every precaution against her because he knows how tenacious.
Yeah, see, and I would argue with that when he created a body, like when he stopped Maeve, he stopped the body. He didn't stop her.
He put a kill switch.
Yes, because he had control over the body because he made it.
Just for the record, Zach, you do owe us 5 Jello shots because at some point you did say Tyrion's gonna get it.
Damn.
He said what? He said what?
He said Tyrion's gonna get it is what I wrote. And he didn't get got.
Well, hell, with the meta way this show is going, for all we know, it's fucking Bran in Puppet Hale right now.
Could be. This could be the real season 7 of Game of Thrones. There's a dragon. There's a dragon.
There's a dragon.
So shall we talk about Caleb now?
Or Cow?
Yeah, that was an interesting.
You're ridiculous. Just because he called him Cal for short because he's a dick doesn't mean he's a different person.
This goes back.
Oh, one of the like kidnappers.
This goes back.
Yeah.
His mom said it too. I think at one point.
This goes back to my theory of the binary, of black and white and good and bad.
Oh, I don't think I was going along with that, but I really do think that like we are getting more proof that he is a host because in the same way that Puppet Hale's son was like, I want my real mommy back, she is saying you're not my real son. And like she even like we get I think this episode was meant to tell us that that is more than dementia. Because last week it was a blow off like, oh, she's dementia.
You're not my son. Yeah.
She's not my son, whatever. But this week we get a full scene of Hale's son like saying, you're doing it wrong. You're not her. I don't like, all this. Like he says that multiple times. And then he says, I want my real mom back. And then I'm pretty sure Caleb's mom says, you're not my son. You're not my real son. Like, I feel like she mimicked his words so clearly that like the twist is going to be
something
like,
yeah.
Well, and he met the other guy he was supposed to know, and he called him Cal.
Well, and I mean, it's
that because that was part of that assassin app or that black market app. I think he knew him through there. The thing that confused me was you said, "Oh, Caleb has heard about Dolores before." Why did you say that, Zach?
Because he said, "It's finally. It's
nice to finally meet you.
It's nice to finally meet you."
He didn't get introduced to her the night before.
I get that, but it's just the intonation of the sentence made it feel like, "Oh, you're Dolores." Like I've heard of a Dolores before.
No, I don't agree with that.
Well,
no, there's Pfeiffer.
It was really great how the episode picked up where episode 1 kind of ended with everything with Dolores. Like they were in the ambulance. Caleb waited with her and tried to help her. And I believe it was the after scenes where the producers were talking about that Caleb surprised Dolores as a human doing these things. So again, all this stuff about Caleb possibly being a host, I think they're peppering that in there. One, to be a red herring, but also they're making a pretty good case about it because like what Dolores did was dress Caleb down in the diner and basically say, hey, I know you're one cornerstone about your mom, which if he is a host, that's what this is, was you getting left in the diner as a child while your mom went on a schizophrenic bender. Nothing against that, but Dolores picked that apart as if it had been coded by somebody and she had access to that. But again, I believe Caleb is a real person, even if Dolores doesn't know it, because, it would be kind of silly for, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of red herrings and we're expecting a lot of the same tropes from the last few seasons. And again, like Andrew, I think we all need to remain more open to the series and, let them bring Big Love and the Leftovers into this world as well too.
We've been watching the after show, which I think is really interesting because like they like tell like how the location like bleeds into what they design. But also I do like that point they made of like Dolores has experienced people only at their worst when there are no consequences in the park. And so like seeing someone do something good just for good's sake for her is just like mind changing almost.
Because she doesn't, they don't know that she's a toy,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like, and she like, they don't know she's a toy. They don't know to mistreat her, but also like, this is not her experience of what humans are. Mm-hmm. And so she's been driven so hard to like defeat humans because they are garbage, but they are garbage. I mean, and that's the debate of like, are we true? At our base, are we good or evil? And that depends. But without consequences, people go bad. So.
Well, and here's the thing, because going back to the first episode when we were introduced to Caleb.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I jumped on that symbology of him waking up and the sun moving across, just like Dolores.
Right.
And, oh, that's a hint that he's a host. Then, of course, stepping back, I realized that could also be saying that humans have their own loops.
No, they do.
And so showing him like with the symbology of Dolores' day, but in a human has a loop just as much as a host. But I think Dolores knew everything she knew about Caleb because of Insight. Insight's collecting all that stuff.
She's got Google in her head. She can rent hotel rooms or floors or apartments by just saying, hey, do this.
And they even said big data has you tagged from, the moment you're born. We've established that's happened, and that could easily be how Dolores has access to it. But that scene in the diner between Dolores and Caleb, where she was telling him all about it, reminded me of the scene where I think it was Lutz or Sylvester, I can't remember the name of the tech, was telling Maeve, you're programmed to say everything, and then puts the tablet in her hands, and she's like, that's not right, and I was expecting something like that, but I believe Andrew's right. It was just drawing a parallel between these are both people who are stuck in a world that they didn't create, that they were just born into, and they are trapped in their own world, which we find out later. That's what Dolores was telling Caleb Rehoboam does. You are basically quantified, and you are kept in your place in what the system deems as the best possible path for you, loop, path, whatever they wanted to call it in this season. And it's very true about humans in this world, just as it was hosts in Westworld.
And I just have one more quick thing to add, because I know our 20-minute thing is already gone to 30 minutes. We just got upgraded. We talked about who Dolores' boyfriend's father is.
Yes.
Is it possible that his father is the guy that Dolores killed? Because the guy, well, she didn't. I mean, she accidentally killed him in the pool on purpose. Because she said you used to be part of Insight and you left and you weren't supposed to take all these documents, but I know you did, so you're going to give them to me.
No.
So maybe.
Oh wow! I mean, honestly,
so then later when he's like, "Oh, my father left and he did this, this, and this," and then Dolores is like, "Yeah, I got all the shit from your father, and that's why I'm in control."
That's the best explanation I've heard all season long. I ship it.
I mean, I'm just putting it as a theory. I don't know this.
Well, It seems like, it seems like at this point, Sirach could be the father, or it's going to be a Maury Povich episode by the end of the season, but Sirach could be the father. I like what Andrew said. I don't know if we ever got that character's name at the beginning of season 1, but he could be a very easy contender, and these people who, again, I think Sirach, based on just bringing that up, is a better case because Sirach could be fake.
I still think it's someone we know from the last 2 seasons.
It'll be a big reveal, I'm sure, but I like that theory just as good as any.
So I guess the last thing we haven't really talked about is what is Sirach up to?
Power, money.
But what's the end goal? Well, we don't know yet, but
to conquer Delos?
Again,
we don't know.
Again, that'll be one of the bigger overarching mysteries of the season. But again, even when they blow the lid off of that, it'll just open it up for more questions, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And what if it were, Ford making one last attempt from the grave? He set up Sirach as a host to do this outside of the park, et cetera, et cetera. He's combined him with, Ford actually got it right. The fidelity, he nailed it the second or third time. And Ford still has machinations out in the world. See, that's what I keep reminding myself. We haven't seen Ed Harris this season.
Yeah,
we haven't seen Anthony Hopkins.
We've seen Ed Harris.
We haven't seen Clifton Curtis.
Hang on.
There's going to be some comebacks.
Yeah, we've seen Ed Harris in previews. We know we're going to get him. Did we get Anthony Hopkins in season 2?
Nope.
Yeah. We did.
Yeah, he was in season.
He was.
I don't know.
He was in the computer. He was in the computer.
In the cradle.
He was a ghost in Bernard's head.
It was
I have a
but I mean, harking back to what Thomas is saying, I think, Kate, you're the one who brought it up. There's a lot to be said in those opening credits, and we see a host with the face mask break apart.
Yeah, we
which
see
is
that
like
theory.
What
that is
Ford's family was like.
That's the first generation of hosts is the ones that say, turn the other cheek, and they're just, and so we see that. All right, I did bring that up.
Is that everything?
I think we did.
All right, I think it's everything.
All right, I hope this recorded.
This worked.
All right, Andrew.
All right, well, let us know right away so we don't worry about it. Because it's premiering tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we're the Knights of the Drunk Watch.
And
now our talk has ended.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Sponsored by Shiner Beer, but not really.
No, it's not.